Hello, welcome back, and I'll be moving to the quick tips section now, where I explain tips that I noticed while doing this build a lot on ladder. Some of the tips you already heard when I was analyzing the replays, but here's the list. The first tip is queens on hold position. We talked about that during the Cloud Kingdom game. When your opponent injects with a queen, if it was already set to hold position, it will reset now, and you can lure the queens with the Phoenix out of spore crawler range and actually just pick it off. It really takes some APM for the Zerg to keep that queen on hold position always. The second tip is to make sure you target the queen. When you get inside of the base and there's actually overlords near the queen, you want to target the queen and make sure you're not spending any shots of the Phoenix on overlords. It takes of course one lift to kill off a queen, but if your Phoenix aren't targeting the queen but taking some shots at the overlord, you actually might need 2 lifts, and that's quite a waste. You don't want to do that, so always make sure that you're targeting the queen once you lift it off. Again, in the Cloud Kingdom game, it takes 6 fungals to kill a Phoenix when it's full on health. So when you see only 5 or 4 infestors, don't be afraid to go in. Just go inside, try to lift some infestors. Even if you get fungled, you know your Phoenix won't die. You might have to retreat them after that, of course, to regain the shields. And if you're going for an all-in like I did on the Cloud Kingdom game, it's really good if your opponent spends like some fungals on Phoenix they won't kill, because you're just wasting their energy. The fourth tip is to wall off your natural completely when you're going for a fast third base. This, however, is only possible on Ohana and Entombed Valley for ladder maps, where you can completely wall off your natural and you have rocks for an easy access to a third base. Make sure you have at least 2 pylons in the wall. You don't want to have your whole wall running on 1 pylon, of course. The fifth tip is to keep a zealot at the watchtower. On some maps you put the zealot in between the tower and the rocks, or just the map itself, and it will take less surface area, so it will take more links to kill it. It's a nice little tip if you actually keep the zealot at the watchtower and not at your wall-in. The sixth tip is use the Phoenix to lift off your own units. They won't auto-attack it, so let's say your stalker gets surrounded by Zerglings, you can just lift it off, and save it. Like we saw on the Ohana game, you can actually use Phoenix to lift off retreating units. So don't be afraid to use your Phoenix as defensive units, even if you're out harassing and your opponent comes in with a roach ling attack, a ling infestor attack, and you think you're not able to kill infestors or roaches. Well, you can actually. They try to retreat and the Phoenix will be there to lift them off. Another tip is to just make the Void Ray from the Stargate if you're expanding and you don't feel safe. Of course you will have the robotics to make immortals, but it's just way after the Phoenix are out. So you won't have a big immortal count, and there's no reason why you shouldn't get a Void Ray if you feel threatened. Of course, with the Phoenix out on the map in your opponent's base really fast, you will be able to see how many roaches your opponent is actually making. I think in one replay attached to the thread, you can actually see a game where I just keep the Phoenix and see the roach count, and then you just make a Void Ray in response, and it helps a lot to hold off attacks. Void Rays of course deal a lot of damage to armored units, so of course really good against the roaches. For the timings, I actually only have one timing for you, that is the speedling upgrade. Of course it's very important to know when your opponent's speed for the Zerglings is going to finish, so that you make sure that there's no stalkers on the map, no zealots trying to scout, and you already scouted with your probe for the third base. For this, however, you will have to need to see your opponent's gas timing. Once your opponent starts a gas, it takes 30 seconds for the gas to finish, and if your opponent puts drones on it right away, it takes a little less than a minute, 55 seconds, to accumulate 100 gas for the circling speeds, which takes 110 seconds to make.